There are 10 total survivors in Forsaken, all with their own unique sets of abilities, and today I'm going to be ranking them all based on how strong I think they personally are. There are 3 classes of survivors: Survivalists, Sentinels, and Supports. The 3 S's. Survivalists focus purely on their own survival, and usually just do generators all match while hiding in corners and either extending chase or avoiding chase. Sentinels focus on disrupting the killer by stunning them, usually being on the front lines, and having some ways of healing, protection, or extra HP to compensate for often being in the killer's face. And finally, the Supports, who focus on boosting other survivors and disrupting the killer through slowness. Let's start with the Survivalists. Noob, I would say, is a B tier survivor. He's definitely the best survivor in the game for helping himself out. You have 3 tools which are all very useful for prolonging chase. You automatically have your own mini Bloxicola, the Slate Skin is very useful for parrying, walking out of sticky situations, and the Ghost Burger is a survivalist essential to prevent yourself from being highlighted by the killer. The thing that makes him B tier, however, is not being able to help his team as much. He can use Slate Skin to get rid of Cool Kid minions and take some hits from the killer. He can walk into digital footprints with Ghost Burger to get rid of them and not be highlighted, but at the cost of 19 HP. And that's about all I know when it comes to Noob's team play. He is super good for own survivability, the best self-survivor, but due to lack of team help, he lands in B tier for me. The next survivalist is 007, who I would say is also B tier, but behind Noob. He can clone to either trick the killer, body block, or hide his aura from the killer. Tricking the killer with clone is extremely difficult to pull off, but if you do pull it off either by breaking line of sight or pretending to be a clone, it can be extremely rewarding. Body blocking can definitely help, but it's not that helpful, and the cool GUI is pretty much just an LMS tool. I've seen some insane 007 games before, but 99% of the time, it's also just pretty mid. And having any survivor with a more direct helping tool is usually better, so I do think 007 is currently the worst survivor in the game. Next up, let's talk about the next class, Sentinels. Starting with the last guest, I would have to rank him at the top of B tier. The charge is pretty useful for making a gap of distance between the killer and someone the killer's chasing. It can get rid of minions, give you iframes, and can be used to knock killers off of edges. And it's honestly a really good ability, but the cooldown is quite long. The block and parry go hand in hand, and can be really good as a self-sustain tool, but it won't usually help other survivors who are being chased as much, unless it's 1x and you can mass infection tech, or block for entangled survivors. Don't get me wrong, good guest games have super high potential, with block only having a 24-second cooldown, but just picture it from a killer perspective. Are you more scared of a 2-time lingering behind you, a chance on the sidelines, a Shedletsky camping around the corner, or a guest hovering around? The other Sentinels just provide more fear to you usually. If you're chasing a guest, I do think he's the best Sentinel during a chase, as the block can create tons of mind games, but for team help, which is what Sentinels are built for, I do think he is the weakest at that. Next, let's talk about Shedletsky, who I would rank as A tier. Shedletsky doesn't need too long of a segment. He's the most simple Sentinel. You have a sword slash to stun, and you have a 40 HP heal. For how simple Shedletsky is, it does mean he is super consistent at what he does, and is pretty much the standard for Sentinels. He can stun for others, he can stun for himself, and has a pretty much portable medkit to heal off of damage he gets from any missed stuns or mistakes. Moving on, let's talk about Chance, who I would also rank as A tier above Shedletsky. Chance has a ranged stun, which is honestly the most powerful stun for team play in the game, and Chance has the potential to be S tier, but if you get bad luck, he can also easily be considered B tier, and with that luck factor being in play, that is what makes Chance A tier. It really just depends on your luck how good Chance can be. Sometimes your gun just explodes in your face, sometimes you get really bad HP rolls, it just really depends. But the last Sentinel to talk about is 2-Time, who before the Slasher update was most definitely S tier, but now I would rank him as A tier, squished between Chance and Shedletsky. With backstabs being a lot harder to hit after the update, he definitely moves down to A tier, but if you do still land backstabs, then his pros really show. Second life, healing, LMS, you'll be a menace in team play, and to be chased if you hit your backstabs and get your ablation up. It just requires a ton of skill, similar to how Guest requires tons of skill, except I think the reward you get for being good at 2-time is better than the reward you get for playing a good Guest, even when Guest is more difficult, which kinda sucks, but that's why I think 2-time is better. But finally, onto the final and most powerful category of survivors by far, supports. Starting with the most basic but powerful support, we have Elliot, who I have as the #1 survivor in S tier. The heal requires no slowdown or wind up or anything like a Dusekkar beam or force field would, just some instant health for whoever you want, unless you throw the pizza into a really bad spot. The rush hour is also a super nice utility to help gain some distance if you know what you're doing, and although it's honestly not the best self-sustain, and although Elliot only has 80 HP, the amount of support you can do for other survivors just by healing them a crap ton is a huge win, which makes Elliot the best survivor in the game in my opinion. Next up, Dusekkar, who I put just behind Elliot in S tier. Dusekkar is definitely the most active support, with both abilities being on pretty low cooldowns for support standards, and they can add a ton of value during chase. You can zap a survivor to give them some speed and shield, zap a killer to slow them heavily, and if you zap both of them at the same time, that's tons of progress in the chase removed from the killer if it's pulled off correctly. The spawn protection is also super useful to block for entangled people, or to help survivors who are about to get punished for mistakes, like when someone misses a stun and is about to get gashing wound, walk speed overrided, or mass infection. It can be a very game-changing move in the right scenario, and on a pretty low cooldown as well, along with the plasma being a nice self-sustain tool if the killer gets onto you. That is why I think Dusekkar is S tier. He can sustain himself decently and does tons of support for other survivors. Builderman is next, and I put him at the top of A tier. The sentry is an extremely powerful slowdown tool, forcing the killer to stop and either use tons of time doing 2 M1s at it, or use one of their abilities on it. The dispenser is also really nice for those moments when survivors take a little bit of damage, but don't want to waste a chicken, medkit, or Elliot pizza on it. For example, if you ran into John Doe's trail a few times while going for a backstab, recover with the dispenser. Or if you're randomly hit with a Void Rush Chain, Nova Star, sniped by 1x, just any little bit of chip damage you received, you can walk off with the help of the dispenser. And if left alone long enough, you can even heal up the full HP from a very low amount, but that's more rare. The only reason I think Builderman is A tier and not S tier, like the other supports though, is that his self-sustain is weaker. Once the killer takes down your sentry, you're not getting time to build another, and you're pretty much defenseless. Finally, to end it off, the last character and last support of the video is Taph, who I have ranked as A tier, just behind Builderman. The sentry and tripwire I honestly see as very similar. The tripwire can slow down the killer for 4 seconds if they don't notice it, and the sentry will slow down the killer and force them to destroy it. The sentry is a stronger slowdown by itself, definitely, but the tripwires can be spammed more and create more opportunities to slow the killer down than the sentry. The real make or break between who is better when I was ranking them is the trip mine versus the dispenser, and I just thought a healing ability is guaranteed to be better than like any other ability, which is why I ranked Builderman higher than Taph, but you can definitely argue that trip mines can be better. The trip mine, if hidden well, can land pretty much guaranteed hits on the killer, and it does, I'd say, about as much as a guest charge when it comes to stalling the killer. Surprises you and disorients you for a little bit, but you can honestly shake it off. And of course, once you get rid of Taph's traps, he can't just place anything during chase, which is the same issue as Builderman being defenseless once his traps are gone, and that's why I landed him in A tier. So, here is the final tier list. Guest, Noob, and 007 and 7 are all in B tier, as they can do things in team play, but they're mostly self-sustain focused. I ranked Builderman, Taph, Chance, T-Time, and Shedletsky in A tier, as they can do a lot for the team, but not as much while they're being chased. Although they still can, in the right scenarios, do things without being chased, it's not as good. And finally, in A tier, The characters who not only can do a lot for the team, but can also help themselves out are Elliot and Dusekkar. But what do you guys think of the Forsaken survivors? Remember that this isn't a completely objective tier list and is still mostly my opinion, but let me know what you guys think. Peace out, have a good